Welcome to Mom Boss Central. I'm your host, Alexia Hoffman. This podcast is where entrepreneurial moms like you and me come together for real and raw conversations filled with practical tips, genuine stories, and a whole lot of girl power. But it's not just about listening, it's about building a community. If you haven't already, make sure to join at mombbosscentral.com. So whether you're sipping on a cup of coffee, pouring yourself a glass of wine, or tuning in on the go, get ready to join the conversation and become part of our supportive Mom Boss Central community. I'm here with Annalise, the mommy mentor. Welcome to the show, Annalise. Will you introduce yourself to our listeners?
Of course. Thank you so much for having me. So I'm Annalise. I am a mom of two. I'm a mompreneur. I'm also a podcast host as well of the Mommy Mindset. And I'm just a big community advocate. I love always connecting and networking with all types of women and especially moms.
I love it. Well, can you tell us a little bit more about your kids and your business?
So I have two. I have a 10-year-old boy and I have a almost 2-year-old girl. So I have a big age gap between. It was funny because I am a young mom, but like neither of them was planned. I was like good with one and then out pops another one. And I was like, oh, okay, starting all over 9 years later, but it was definitely have been a journey. It's been very fun from a boy to a girl. And my business is hosting events here in Dallas, Texas for women and mompreneurs as well, but then also hosting masterminds, workshops, and this is in person and virtually. So really just cultivating a community for women and specifically moms to really know that you're not alone in motherhood and specifically in entrepreneurship when you have that really strong purpose of, yes, you're a mom, but that strong calling to do something more for not just your family, but also for yourself. So I love to mentor other mommies who have that calling within them.
Yeah, I love that. I love the work that you're doing, and I'm so happy that we're connected because obviously there's a lot of alignment there. So tell me a little bit about how, you started the business, how old your kids were, and what that looked like to integrate entrepreneurship into.
I feel like we take away back to I was so young. I was a kid and always like hustling in a way. In
Yeah.
school, I just had an entrepreneurship soul so young. So, like I said, I was a young mom, but I also like went to college and throughout business school, I was like, okay, like I want to start doing something. And it was 2019 where I finally like dug my feet in the ground and I was like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do a product-based business. And I sold lashes, false lashes. And that was a whole journey in itself of just like starting because really I was what 20 years old and trying to find myself and knew that I wanted to start something. So my goal then was to start a huge makeup empire from the ground
Okay.
up. And that was like my first path journey into entrepreneurship. And it was, like I said, a big learning curve of like actually having a product-based business and wearing all the hats. And then it comes to marketing, social media, and all the stuff. And my son at the time was 6 years old, around 6, 7 years old. And so obviously I've had a lot of support around me from family. So I was always dabbling in, okay, being a mom and like he was in sports at the time. And then also, and I did have a lot of free time because I had one job at the time and then going through school. So I was really trying to work on my business as much as I, could at the moment. And so I had that for through COVID. So I had that business for about 2 years. And I was like, okay. And then, how COVID was for all of us. And it really made me shift into, well, like, I feel like there's so much more I could be doing in, for myself, but especially for the women. And like, even when I was selling my lashes, my direct audience was moms because I was a mom. And I always loved putting myself together and wearing lashes. And so I wanted to say, like, you can still be a mom and still be super busy, but like still get glammed up here and there. And like I was trying to say it's easy and stuff, but I always got pulled into personal development and mindset. And
Yeah.
so I really dabbled in that and then switched onto going through my personal development journey, mindset, and really understanding like what it really means to be self-aware and really like learning myself and my mind
Yeah.
to not just always be a hustler and go 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 and super busy all the time. Um,
Mhm.
and then that's when I actually started podcasting with my sister in 2021 just for fun. It was just for like really like a hobby for us because we were so
Yeah.
busy and we just pressed record. So that fizzled out, but that's where I found my passion. I was like, wow, I absolutely love talking, through the mic to our listeners and to helping other people and different perspectives. And so it kind of went hand in hand. That's how the Mommy Mindset podcast came about. Fast forward, I found I was pregnant with my second,
Mhm.
and I was like, what? I was completely, I mean, I know there's other moms listening right now that has little, surprises too, but I was just completely taken away because of the age gap. I did
Yeah.
my kids so far, like I didn't want that. I wasn't planning to have my kids so far apart, but
Yeah.
everything happens for a reason and it worked out. I absolutely love that my 10-year-old helps me with his little sister. But I actually started the podcast 8 months pregnant. Like I didn't wait. I
Yeah.
started
I love that.
till the end. I was like, I'm gonna go full force in this. I'm not gonna wait for baby. People thought I was
Yeah.
crazy, but I was like, I have to do this. And so
Mhm.
now we are with Mommy Mindset and growing that into a community in the mindset personal development space.
Yeah, I love that, and I love that you said you didn't wait, and people think you're crazy because when I started like my stuff so close after having my baby, people thought I was crazy. So people are gonna think you're crazy no matter when you do it. I think what matters is that we're going out and that we're doing it because
Mhm.
there's never a good time, right? Like it's never gonna be, at least in my life, it's never like, oh yeah, this is the perfect time, everything's calm, nothing's going on. Like when was the last time we could sit back and say nothing's going on as life with kids? Like there's always something going on. There's always a reason to not do it. But I love that you just like pursued that because you were passionate about it, not because it felt like this is the ideal circumstance. So, talk to me a little bit about what it's looked like to build a business with a younger baby and also a older.
It was a big shift for me. It really was. And obviously, different pregnancies are different, your kids
Hmm.
are different. So
Yeah.
my son, he's a boy. He was so chill. He's a good kid, really easy. And at this 8, 9, age, he pretty much took care of himself, and I didn't have to. He didn't need so much attention from me like
Yeah.
he did. So it was just a big mindset shift from going from one kid for so long, the only boy,
Yeah.
to okay, now it's having to share. I'm gonna have to be shared between my kids and a girl at that, and all the things that girls entails. And she had attitude since the womb. Like she is a big personality, and I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
People, my husband say that she's just like me, and so dealing with the little mini me is a lot.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it was a mindset shift, and yes, like getting everything ready, but I was just making sure like, can I actually do this and continue
Yeah.
to go after what I want? Because I know a lot of moms listening, maybe you too, you kind of have a identity shift big time, and it's like,
Mhm.
who am I? What do I want? And I kind of went
Yeah.
through that a little bit after my second. I took a good maternity leave. I want to say a good 3, 4 months to be with her, to really soak her up and be that new mom again.
Yeah.
And I also took it to like really unplug from everything, and I kind of isolated myself just to enjoy and be in that moment. And
Mm-hmm.
I've been in network marketing for a while, and during that time, I did start another business. It just didn't
Mm.
feel so aligned for that season I was in right there.
Yeah.
And, even
Yeah.
though, like I mentioned, I started the Mommy Mindset podcast 8 months pregnant with her,
Mm-hmm.
and I really just put a couple episodes out there and I took a pause intentionally. Like I told everyone, I'm going to take a pause. Obviously, with the new baby, I was being in the moment and I didn't feel guilty about kind of stepping away from this piece of business, this business side for me.
Yeah.
It really, if you would ask me now to step away, I would feel guilty. I'd be like, no way, I can't step away. But just in that moment, in that season of being a new mom, I knew it felt right and aligned for me to step away in just a little bit and actually be present with not just my new baby, but also, my oldest as well. And it felt really, really good to be intentional with that because when I finally hopped back on the podcast and the business, I felt like I didn't skip a beat at all. I didn't feel behind. I didn't feel like people judged me for it. It felt right. And I knew that going into it, and it felt even better coming back refreshed, if you can say.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely can relate to that. I know my first maternity leave, I didn't take one. I literally just made myself available as I was being wheeled into the operating room. And then, like in the hospital bed, I was taking calls after having my twins. And then, on the flip side, for my second pregnancy, my third child, I decided I was not going to be available, and I put all the systems in place so I could feel good about that decision. And I came back on my own terms, and, having the flexibility to come back and do what I wanted made it so much more enjoyable. Like I didn't feel forced back, or like I wasn't dreading the work, because it was like I gave myself space to actually like miss it and to want to come back. And so, I think that's like a big piece of, finding that balance between giving yourself a break and like feeling like we need to like hustle, hustle, hustle. But like it is so important to let ourselves have rest and to not feel guilty about the rest that we're taking. Because I think if we take rest, but we feel guilty,
Yes, I know exactly what you mean. That was me for the longest because like I said, I was so used to working all the time and
yeah,
hustling and then building something and then finally taking the pause. It was really different, but then, like I said, it felt so, so good when I did to actually
yeah.
take that rest that I know my body needed, but also like my
Mm-hmm.
brain.
Yeah. Yeah. I think too, like you talked about how you wanted to give time to your older son. And I think that was something that was an adjustment for me coming back to work. Because I felt ready physically and mentally, but where I really struggled was balancing the time with my new baby and my twins. And I felt like coming back to work was taking away from my twins. And so like I felt like guilt for that. And it took me a little bit to kind of to get over that and like normalize like working hours again. And like I got used to spending so much more time with my kids, being home on maternity leave. It wasn't like restful time to be home. Like it wasn't like I was laying in bed and, they just lay there next to me because they're 16 months old and running like crazy. So, I mean, it wasn't like this restful season, but it did feel like hard to leave them for so many hours a day to go back to work. It felt like I got used to the new normal of being home all day, and then I could take time for myself and my newborn, and then had time for them. But when I went back to work, I was eliminating so many of those hours that I had for either
Mhm.
myself or for them. And so I had to balance, like after going back, like, okay, I still need time for myself and for just me and the newborn. So like where do I incorporate that and also give enough to my other kids and my husband and my business? So I feel like navigating that was, very.
I know, I totally feel, and that's just kind of the norm with getting pulled in so many different directions as a mom, as a wife,
Yeah.
and then a working mom, and then a business owner. Like, there's
Yeah.
so many things. And, I know that you know how it feels to, like, how easy it is for that to overwhelm you,
Mhm.
because nobody really teaches that. There's not a book. I mean, there's a million other books of time management
Yeah.
and motherhood and parenting and all that, but
Yeah.
nobody really teaches you how to um, do it when you're in it. And I
Yeah.
talk a lot about time management. I mean, it's huge as a woman, but then more as a mompreneur. But
Yeah.
what I've learned too, yes, be strategic with your time. We only have little pockets of time for ourselves, for each of
Mhm.
our kids, and then for our
Yeah.
husband, so he doesn't feel left out. But also,
Yeah.
like, energy management is
Mm.
huge, because
Yeah.
we are business owners or working moms, and like that can take a certain amount of energy, and sometimes we let external things like maybe the job or the business or people on social media really like suck the energy out of us, and then we have
Yeah.
none to give to our kids, and then much less ourselves. So I think
Yeah.
time management obviously is huge. Find what works for you. Like, you find
Mhm.
what works for you. I found what works for me. But
Mhm.
I think the energy piece is
Yeah.
is a gap, because we are like, oh, we need to, like you said, we just need to put time in each of our buckets. But
Yeah.
then you can be at work for X amount of hours, and
Mhm.
really, without even knowing it subconsciously, you're giving them all of your energy,
Yeah.
which you don't even
Yeah.
need to sometimes.
Exactly. And I think that was like the shift for me with coming back to work, like talking about doing the things that I was excited about. Like that was giving me energy.
Mhm.
Where, when you come back to work, if you're forced to do things that you don't love doing, then it is like that energy suck. And I can look back on different seasons and see, like, even though I was maybe working less hours when it wasn't something I was passionate about, or like it wasn't something that was fulfilling me, then it was less hours working, but also I had less energy after doing it. Where, like, we talked like a little bit about, I can record a full day of podcasts and like spend way more hours working, but feel great after, because I loved the conversations I was having and I loved what I was doing. So I think like that's a good point of self reflection. If somebody is struggling with, energy levels, like look at the activities that you're doing and look at really like what drains your energy that you can delegate, or how can you find more time to do things that fill your cup, whether they're work or personal. But to, really do a true analysis of where is my energy going and why am I feeling not, why am I not feeling.
Because we can feel so depleted by the end of the day. And like you said,
Yeah.
and sometimes we have to do things that we don't want to do. Like, we have to do
Yeah.
things that won't light us
Yeah.
up. But then it's always like that balance of, okay, yes, I like have a 9 to 5, but like I'm
Mm-hmm.
supplementing that energy. That
Mm-hmm.
first, like, before all of that, it's like boundaries is very, very important.
Yeah. Yeah.
Set,
Definitely.
maximize what's going to make you feel better, minimize as much as you can for the things that that will suck your energy. But like
Mm-hmm.
something with things like, what we just talked about, we love to connect with other women, or
Yeah.
love to go grab a coffee with one of my friends, or like just 5 minutes quiet time to kind of get that
Yeah.
second wind of energy, so I can dedicate that time energy to my kids the later part of the day. So
Yeah.
finding what works for you, but just now being aware of, okay, what am I putting so much energy to that I can kind of get back, so I can put it in something that I want to, like myself, like
Definitely.
my kids, my business, and so on and so forth.
Yeah. And I think like a huge part of what you said about finding what works for you, and like there's not a book and there's so many books, like that was something that I struggled with. I was like, okay, I have to read, like before I had kids, I was like, I have to read all the parenting books. And then it was like, I want to read all the business books, like so I can figure out how to do it, like, and figure it out was like my answer. Like I was going to achieve something, or like realize this formula of like, here is how to balance it all. And what I learned was like, okay, nobody has it figured out. Like nobody has created a formula that says if you spend X amount of hours with your kids and X amount of hours on work and X amount of hours on your marriage and X amount of hours on yourself, then your kids are going to be perfect, your marriage is going to make it, and your business is going to thrive. Like nobody, even the most successful people, like find the most successful business that you can think of. Like there is no formula that says here is how to do all of the things, because everybody makes it work differently. And quite frankly, I don't think anybody can do all the things perfectly in every season. Like that's just not realistic. So like for me, that was such a big mindset shift of like, nobody has it figured out. Like I don't care who you think is the most successful person you could think of. Like there is no formula that they have published that works for everyone, because everybody has something different that makes their situation unique, and that's okay. So when I read my books and when I listen to podcasts and I try to be better, like now it's with the mindset of like, what can I take from this and apply that will make my life better, make my kids' life better, make my marriage better, make my business better, not like what's the formula of doing it all. Because I think that's like sometimes the mindset or like what people try to sell when they're putting content out there, like, oh, here's your formula, here's your fix. Like once you do this, your life's going to be perfect. When
Absolutely love everything you just said. I was literally just talking about this on my podcast, saying
yeah,
I was talking about, like quarterly goals, and we're coming into
yeah,
a new quarter. And I was like, real, especially as moms and having babies, we need to get our body back and our health. That's important. It is
yeah,
important. But like health was not a big priority for me in quarter one. Like wasn't.
yeah,
I was
yeah,
still taking care of myself because I don't want to let myself go. But like my business and my personal development were like my top two
yeah,
in that season. And now how things are unfolding, I am focusing more on my health in this next couple of months that are coming up. So I love
yeah,
that you highlighted that, because that is so true. There is
yeah,
no perfect formula out there, no matter you look at the most successful mompreneurs, women, business owners, trust me, nothing that's going to fit. It's not like one size fits all. It's one
yeah,
little tidbit from everyone that you can pull to make it your own. And, like you said, every season is different for each mom. Every child is different for each mom and what we go
yeah,
through, and things like that. So it's, if like your health or maybe it's your business that's just like not a priority right now, that's okay. And like
yeah,
you mentioned, you want to make sure we put like our foundations and our systems in place, so when we know that we need to take a step back, that we don't feel guilty or our business doesn't plummet. It's just knowing that you don't have to do everything. And I think that's being told more and more with other women, other moms, that it's okay, that you don't have to do everything all at once. And I think that's a huge mindset shift as a collective that we're adopting.
yeah, yeah. And I think that is so important to normalize like not doing it all. And that it's okay to not prioritize like health in every season. Like I think that, some people might feel shame for saying like, oh, I haven't like worked out in a while. And it's like we should not feel shame around that. Like we can't be expected to do it all. Like at the same time, are you really giving yourself enough credit for all the things that you are doing? Like, okay, you kept your kids alive, right? There's probably food in your fridge. You probably have clean dishes. Like, you took your you took your kid to the doctor's appointment that they needed to go to. Like you managed all these other little things that we are not giving enough weight to that we're doing. Because I feel like, it's so easy to say like, I didn't do XYZ, like, oh, I didn't work out or I didn't go to the grocery store, whatever it is. Like, it's really easy to focus on that. But if we were to flip it and say like, oh my gosh, look at all the things that I have done, like, and actually evaluate all the little things, like there is so much that we do as moms and as entrepreneurs that go unspoken, unappreciated, unacknowledged, that are just expected. And like that for me is like the most frustrating thing about motherhood. And just being like a female entrepreneur that people don't talk about is like, as a mom, I'm still expected to take my kid to the doctor, right? Like I don't get an extra medal for like, oh, wow, you ran your business this week and you took your kid to the doctor. Like, it's expected. If my kid doesn't go to the doctor for 2 years, like, I'm doing something wrong. It's not like I get an award for like finding time in my busy schedule to make it happen. And so I just think like acknowledging the quote unquote little things, like I unloaded and loaded the dishwasher, like that took time out of my day, that took mental space. But like we don't celebrate that because it's just expected. But on the flip side, we celebrate when, like, if my husband does those things that I normally do, like that's celebrated because it's not part of his normal routine. Or maybe it is. I'm not saying, like, I'm not judging anyone else's like delegation of tasks. That's just like in my household. Like if my husband does the dishwasher, I'm gonna like make sure to make him feel really good about that because he doesn't normally do that. I just normally do it, but he's not clapping for me like, oh, look at that, we have clean dishes in the cabinet, how did that happen? They're just there, it's magical. So I think it's like acknowledging all the things that go on, they're just expected to happen, not in a place of resentment, but of like, hey, we are doing a lot and we need to focus on all the good, not just on the one or two things that we didn't get to today.
I love how you highlighted that because it's true. Like, let's be real, and we can get very resentful to the default parent, but like we know we're the default parent, but it still pisses us off that you can't like do the laundry or you can't take the baby a bath. Like, I got to do it. So I know exactly what you mean, and I know other moms listening too, that that's like the first place that we can go to mentally is frustration, and we're a little bit resentful, like of our partners, but maybe like other moms that their household is ran different. But again, you cannot compare and know that, yes, all these responsibilities fall on you and you're not getting an applause each and every night after that. But I think it's also really important it's like our responsibility to do it for ourselves, not
Exactly.
if you need it daily, do it daily. That's why I love to journal and like write out my wins. Or like really find the community. Obviously, like what we have here is with other moms that know, it's like, you know what, I'm going to cheer you on because you did the laundry. Like, it didn't just sit in the dryer for a week. Like, that's a big win. And so things like that we can do for ourselves, but then also find a community who understands us and who can support us even when we get that frustration, just to know that it is normal that we can get frustrated, a little bit resentful, but picking up that practice of learning how to celebrate small wins and our abilities to keep going no matter what, that's a huge thing in itself.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, like you said, it's okay, I think, to let yourself get frustrated and like experience that frustration. But I think it's important to like catch it before it turns into resentment. And I think it's okay to say you want to be celebrated also. I feel like that's something that has a negative connotation, or like, it can be misconstrued of like, oh, I don't, like a participation trophy. Like, I'm not saying that, we need to ask for, oh, I did this, I deserve X, Y, and Z. But I think, like with my husband, if I'm feeling like that frustration build up, I'll say, hey, I did just spend the last 20 minutes cleaning up the whole house and loading the dishwasher. And when I say that, he's like, oh, like, I really appreciate that you're doing that. Like, it's to him, he doesn't think of that because it's not something, it's just something that happens. And like, if I find myself frustrated, if I keep that in, that's what leads to like that explosion and like the resentment. Where if I just tell him, like, he does validate because he does appreciate it. And I think that's what we forget. Like, just because they're not verbalizing appreciation, it's not that they don't. It's just like, it's not that he thinks to say anything. So, and on the flip side, I mean, how many days I'm sure my husband feels like I didn't appreciate something he did, whether it's going something, with work or around the house or with the kids, like, because even the things that I expect him to do, I still appreciate him doing. And I think that is something that we need to acknowledge. Like, it's okay to.
I love that you also said that, and being open and have that strong communication between you and your partner. But then also, it doesn't have to be like your partner,
Mm-hmm.
family members, or like the people that do help you out, or like
Yeah.
I said, your community that will acknowledge the fact of everything that you are doing. Because, and really, I know when I can get frustrated and feel like nobody appreciates me, here comes my son, like, just to give me a hug out of,
Yeah.
like, okay, like, that just obviously, as moms, that melts our hearts, and know that that small little kiss or hug or thanks mom from our kids can be
Mm-hmm.
so much more, and that can be the reward after everything that we do. Something little like that can just make it all worth it.
Yeah, I agree. Well, Annalise, thank you so much for this conversation. I feel like it's so important what you're doing and to create space for moms to, share vulnerably and, acknowledge the struggles that we experience as moms and as entrepreneurs. And I really appreciate you sharing your journey of, how you got into entrepreneurship and how you've created this community even with having a little kid. So it is possible. And I think that you're a light to women that are trying to navigate that season. So thank you for sharing. Where
Always on social media, mainly on Instagram. You can find me on Instagram as Annalise_gorgeous. And then on the Mommy Mindset podcast, I'm always posting small little tidbits weekly. You can listen on Apple, Spotify, anywhere that you listen to podcasts.
Awesome. Love it. Well, we will link your stuff below as well. So if people want to connect with you, they can just go to the show notes and find you there. But thank you again for being on.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of Mom Boss Central. I hope you found inspiration, encouragement, and maybe even a few new strategies to rock your mom boss journey. Remember, you're not alone. We're all in this together. And don't forget to share the love with your fellow mom bosses. Make sure to join the community at mombosscentral.com. It's completely free and a space to connect with like-minded women. All you have to do is sign up and start connecting. Until next time, keep pursuing your passions and living authentically. We're so happy to have you as part of the Mom Boss Central community.